Ja, nagatsi hinu had Ketchikan. My Haida name is Fox. Dank echt die good lagang. I'm happy to see you. Welcome to this week's edition of Haida Language and Etymology. I am studying Alaskan Haida through University of Alaska Southeast, and I am going to be talking today about weather in Haida, toponyms, meaning place names, and the way directions are expressed. So, full disclosure before we get started, I'm including more Haida in this video than I have in previous videos because I want you to get used to hearing more Haida sentences without interstitial English placed in. And yeah, so don't expect me as a non-native speaker, as a primarily English speaker from the southern United States, to always speak Haida without making any mispronunciations. I'm probably not going to pronounce things as accurately as a native speaker would, so I encourage you to seek out native Haida speakers on YouTube. Susie Edwardson is a great resource for that, and there are many others. I want to make collections of sentences that I think might be helpful to other learners and make some of that information more public. So without further ado, I will get through some of these Haida directions. So our first sentence is going to be Clan u hao kajugang. Clan u hao kajugang. Where is he hunting? Clat awai ink ah. Clat awai ink ah. On the mountain. Akya u dujai ijang. The cat is outside. Akya u dujai ijang. Ana u hai ijang. Ana u hai ijang. The dog is inside. Sak stlaju. Slaju. Sak stlaju. Point up. Make sure you pay attention to where the accent is pointing as well. Sak stlaju. Point up. Heat stlaju. Point down. Heat stlaju. Point down. Dita oa. Sit behind me. Dita oa. Sit behind me. Dihang oa. Dihang oa. Sit in front of me. Di dawu a oa. Sit beside me. Di dawul a oa. Sit beside me. Klanu dang nagang. Where do you live? Klanu dang nagang. Where do you live? Atlan u nagang. I live here. Atlan u nagang. Hutlan u nagang. I live over there. Hutlan u nagang. I live over there. Then we have Ingust u nagang. I live across the way. Ingust u nagang. Then we have Ketchikan nagang. I live in Ketchikan. Ketchikan is the word for Ketchikan. Ketchikan nagang. Then we have Tagwa. Tagwa. That GW sound is not very easy for an English speaker. So you don't want to say gwa You don't want to voice the GW. That's an important thing, and that has taken me quite a bit of practice. But we have tag a usnagang. Tag a usnagang. I live down south. And that down south, it pertains to the lower 48. That's typically what that is intended to mean. So, how are environmental descriptors of indigenous peoples different from Western descriptors of the environment? And why are they different? I wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about that. Native place names, when we're talking about what we call our cities, our villages, they tend to give some sort of direction in the name. It can often include information about weather conditions, local animals and plants, and place names in indigenous cultures can even give ceremonial and cultural information. So, how is that different from Western place names? Well, in the West, what we call the West, cities tend to be named for prominent individuals. They often reference new or old cities, and sometimes there can even be a reference to religion, such as, Los Angeles, places like that. Western place names can even be derived from native place names, which have been taken out of context. And Ketchikan, Githanst, is actually a really good example of that. Ketchikan, the word Ketchikan, comes from the Tlingit name for the creek Ketchikan. I do not speak Tlingit well, so forgive me. Ketchikan, the meaning of which is unclear. It could mean the river belonging to Ketchik, or other accounts claim that it means the thundering wings of an eagle, which is very interesting because Ketchikan is home to many, many eagles, if you have been there. In modern Tlingit, the name is Ketchikan, okay, which is very close to Githanst, which is the Haida way of saying Ketchikan, Githanst, Ejang, okay? So there are many examples of indigenous place names that have been changed or whose meanings have been lost. And, place names in different cultures, they serve different purposes. In Western place naming, there's an appeal to authority of different kinds, be that individual authority, religion, or in terms of recycling native toponyms out of context. An appeal to antiquity, as it were. For indigenous peoples like the Haida, place names contain important cultural and subsistence information. When Western names replace indigenous place names, that language, cultural history, atmospheric and ecological data contained within those names can be lost. So that's why native place names are important. I want to go over with you some Alaskan Haida phrases that include environmental descriptors, because the environment is such an essential component to a subsistence lifestyle, and it's really integral to the Haida culture. So I feel like those are important things to learn language about. So our first sentence here is Sehuwai Dungagung. The black seaweed is easily accessible. So that word, Sehuwai, was very, very difficult for me at first, but I find myself practicing it, and it does get a little easier as you try. Sehuwai Dungagung. The black seaweed is easily accessible. So that has something about, the environment, the seaweed, the kind of, nutrients we're likely to find around us that are important, and, terminology about how we access it. We also have Sehuai Akya Talang Hilarasang. We will dry the seaweed outside. Sehuai Akya Talang Hilarasang. We'll dry the seaweed outside. That sentence tells us how not only what kind of subsistence we are harvesting, but also like how we process it. It's this kind of language that can tell us so much about cultural history. We also have important directional terminology like chawelgang, chawelgang. The tide is going out. Chawelgang. And then gihidang, gihidang. The tide is coming in. Then we have hanjusla, hanjusla, travel. Hanjuai anu sangai lagang. It's nice weather for traveling. Hanjuai anu sangai lagang. Then we have handlai u gu talang katskatsang. That's not an easy one. Handlai u gu talang katskatsang. We will gather at the river. Handlai u gu talang katskatsang. Then we have adash tsigasang. It will be rainy and windy tomorrow. Adash tsigasang. Ana an hilarasang. Ana an hilarasang. I'll dry myself off at home after I get in the rainy and windy weather. Anak talang istagan dlu guo oyagan. When we arrived home, it was pouring rain. Anak talang istagan dlu guo oyagan. Ad hagui uhal kaju ingan. He went hunting way out to sea. Ad hagui uhal kaju ingan. Way out to sea. So, what can we learn from native place names and from this kind of environmental language that is, sequestered in endangered languages that most people don't have access to? Is there something of value that we can retrieve from this language? I think there is. I think that by restoring native place names, such as turning what we once called Mount McKinley back to its original name, Denali, the high one, the mountain in Alaska, we can compare weather and climate norms in a given area over time. By restoring native place names, we can better understand the migration patterns of animals, and we can repatriate the authority of naming back to First Nations peoples and the originating cultures which named these places, which were attempting to communicate something essential about the environment. There is essential environmental language about Southeast Alaska in Alaskan Haida, in Skidegate Haida, and these things are so important for us to utilize and discuss. So, without going on too long, thank you very much for watching these videos. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell, and don't forget to listen to native speakers. They deserve to be heard. The Managank Kingu, House Dank King Song. How